Welcome to another episode of the Men of the House podcast. Today we have our second interview, a very special interview, and we'll get to that in a moment. But first, we're going to go with a reflection. All right. Oh, don't want to cover that up. So, March 14th, find your purpose. Not everybody believes in a higher power or specific deity, but everyone deserves to search for something higher than themselves. Believing in bigger concepts and bigger missions, the obligations of our communities, and what we are to each other can be our higher faith if we so choose. Alone, without a purpose, we are bound to wonder and want, never feeling fulfilled or called. What is it that calls you forward into your life? Well, I think this is going to be very fitting for this episode. Um, so we're going to go ahead and start with a little plug here for the Podcast Connection Network. I want you to go over there and go to the landing page, and you're going to find 4 podcasts. You're going to find mine, the Men of the House podcast. You're going to find Hunter Allen's Everything is Connected, Amber McCrae's Connection Over Perfection, and Heather Harrington's Hot Mess Espresso. Not only will you find information about the hosts and the shows, you'll also find some resources and some events that they have. Amber has live events usually 3 times a week. And on that note, because I met Marcel in my last interview on TikTok, I would encourage you to go over to TikTok, give us all a follow, give the guests a follow, because if you like what you hear or anything resonates with you, this will give you the opportunity to go in and interact with the people on the other sides of these stories. Every one of us go live, so you're able to interact in real time. There's events, there's chats. We try to keep the spaces safe for vulnerability and openness and honesty. So, that's kind of one of the benefits of if you're seeing this or hearing this now, because the TikTok platform and the way it works, you have a really great opportunity to connect, create, be a part of some community outreach, and just bounce ideas off other people and get a different perspective, maybe when your perspective is not serving you so well. So enough of that. So today's episode, we have Marcel, who you see on the screen. He is otherwise
Hi,
known
everybody.
as Gray Hair Wear on TikTok, or
Whoa.
Tomorrow Needs You on Instagram. So go
Yes.
over, give them a follow, and um, let's see. We're gonna start off this conversation. Then let's see. So we met on TikTok. I come across your page some way, somehow. Now, when I'm going through material, typically what I'm looking for is something that resonates with me. And
Okay.
usually, what resonates with me is authenticity, vulnerability, and kind of given the way the world is today and mental health, finding men who are willing to speak up, be vulnerable, put it all out there is one of those things that is just the most authentic part of humanity that's really inspiring, really attractive, and kind of something I look for in terms of both as a person, but also in terms of a podcast host and wanting to get messages out there of positivity and, try to shift the energy in the world, just because there's so much negativity. But I'm going to let you introduce yourself, kind of who you are, where you're from, and then we're going to we're going to dive deep.
Keep it moving.
Yeah, we're going to get in there and we're going to
Jump in.
talk about why we're here and what
Let's get it.
what we're trying to accomplish here. So, go ahead and give us a little bit about yourself, a little bit of backstory.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for having me on the Mental Health Podcast. It's an honor to be guest number two. I look forward to seeing a lot more great content and interacting with you as a host, as well as the people who listen and view this podcast as well. Who am I? Pretty simply, I'm Marcel. My first name is Marcel, last name is Roston, and I am a survivor of suicide loss. I know a lot of people usually follow up, their name with some fancy occupation like philanthropist or surgeon. Nope, I'm just a survivor of suicide loss. Um, my 17-year-old daughter died by suicide March 26th in 2014. So from that day, that's what I identify as a survivor of suicide loss. I mean, I'm still a dad. I'm still a father. I'm still a man. I'm still a husband. I'm still an employee. I'm still a friend. I'm still a resident, a citizen, all of those things. But first and foremost, I am a survivor of suicide loss. That's the most important part of me that I want people to know. So, um, yeah, that being said, that's as simple as it is, as complicated as it sounds. You know, um, I'm a dad with a voice who has feelings and emotions and struggles every day to find relief for the thoughts and the feelings of pain, of depression, of disappointment, of anger that come across my brain because of a trauma that I suffered that I had no control over, Um, So I just am a dude who is searching for normalcy like everybody else, you know? That's it, man.
Whatever normalcy is.
Right. I'm looking for my normal because in my life, my normal got blasted, 8 years ago, man. And so I've spent 8 years trying to establish a new normal, and that new normal is heavily based around finding and forming a non-invasive, non-threatening means of mental health care um, for myself because I come from a dysfunctional family like we all do,
Hmm.
Um, and I think the biggest difficulty I found was not only admitting that at first, but secondly, was finding help for exactly that problem coming from a dysfunctional relationship or a dysfunctional family. Sometimes we don't know how to ask for help, right?
Right.
And or we're not, we're not, excuse me, not, um, we're told not to out of pride and shame. And when my daughter died, man, I had to figure it out. I had to figure out how to keep living, with this big old thing. And I didn't have any luck finding appropriate resources in my community, with or without insurance that I could afford that were actually effective. Um, Pharmaceutical drugs for mental health and depression, I am deathly afraid of, so I don't use them. Um, and so I strive for alternative means to ease those feelings or make those feelings less or go away, right? And that's a challenge because it's easy in society to just go get a prescription because I'm depressed. It's
Coming from
easy,
healthcare, I know that.
but it's easy to say, I'm just not going to go to work. I'm going to sit on unemployment and be depressed and play video games and sit in sorrow. And you're really not like, I don't feel like I'm doing anything to feel better if I do that.
Avoiding.
Right. I have to actively, I attack my feelings, man, but I don't attack them with aggression. I attack them with intrigue, man, and inquisition. And I try to understand my emotions so that it becomes easier for me to explain my emotions and my feelings to other people, right? Um, and that's, I think, very important. It was, at least for me. I'm 6'1", 225 pounds, and I'm angry. I'm not really nice, and
Right.
I'm not a very like, oh, look at that pretty flower kind of guy. So when I'm emotionally affected by something, anger, fear, frustration, all those feelings come straight out of my stomach into my face and out of my mouth and into my hands and through my eyes, right? And those are initial reactions that caused me a lot of pain, right? And a lot of frustration. So I figured I would learn how to explain my emotions to people, and then they could understand how I expressed them because they would have basis for something that they saw,
When
right?
you made a when we had a conversation last week, you made a comment that really resonated with me around what you just said about justifying actions and explaining behaviors. Um,
Right.
if you want to go ahead and say that, I think it makes kind of a lot of sense that what you're it's like what happened to you doesn't justify.
So there's two things I live by,
Mhm.
right? There's two things. I am the cause of my pain or my discomfort, or someone or something else is, right? So it either happened because of me or it happened to me, right? Either way, it does not define me. What happened to me doesn't define me. It describes who I am. It tells you the story behind the person you're seeing. So it doesn't excuse the action, it explains the action. It doesn't mean I can go out and be, for example, an absolute rude and insanely mean person because I was affected by a trauma. It's no one else's fault. It's not even my fault. It just happened. How I deal with it and how I respond to that is my responsibility, right? Like my daughter passed, my daughter hung herself. That's a trauma that I suffered, right? I shouldn't take my trauma out on other people. And so, what I've tried to do is figure out why people tend to do that sometimes when they're grieving. And I've strived to understand and really put into work the actions to not do that,
Takes
which are
practice.
telling on myself every day when it's the little stuff, when you're sitting at home and you watch a cartoon or you watch a commercial or you watch a movie that brings back those emotions of when you held the one you loved or when you sat and watched them open Christmas presents across the living room. Those things happen every day. And the more you ignore them, the more prevalent and consuming they become, right? Um, if we take the time to really express ourselves simply and concisely, it doesn't take that long. It doesn't.
So you mentioned something earlier
Hmm.
that your title, kind of who you were, and some people identify with different titles and whatnot.
Right.
Now, before this happened,
Hmm.
you had a completely different kind of title, who you were and what you were about. And since this incident, you've developed into who you described yourself as currently.
Right.
When was it a conscious decision? Was it over time that you, was it a choice that you made to say, hey, this is now how I'm going to identify? Or was it when you were, we haven't talked about Tomorrow Needs You yet, but when we do, was it something like that that was the inspiration to go, okay, now I was this person, now this is who I am, and this is what I'm about? Or was it something that said, I can't, you know, this is too much and I don't know what to do except for to do something positive, and so this is now my identity, and I'm going to take whatever's in here and turn it into something positive? Or was it a little bit of both?
That's a really good question. So, who I was before was a regular dude, still a regular dude, still a normal guy, still pay taxes, still drink Starbucks, still make my own coffee at home, still will get into a bar fight. I'm not 50 yet. Like, I'm still a regular dude. Here's the thing. I've made different choices in my life because I've realized that the choices I've made before this trauma happened, I can't make anymore and continue to live. Right. So, was it a conscious decision? Did I sit down at the bathroom in the bathroom or at the kitchen table and go, no more 7 Up after 8 p.m.? No. Did somebody come knock on my fucking door and go, here's your new instructions of how you have to? No. I think it's for me, it was a realization of the negatives that I was doing, the negative behavior that I was displaying, right? Was because I was angry. Fought because I was angry, right? And I used my anger and I used my trauma as an excuse to engage in the physical activity because I felt hurt and scared. So I couldn't talk about it, right? Because you didn't care, whatever, right? And through those actions, I learned that I was the problem, right? Although I had a problem, no one knew it because I was the problem. Don't hang out with Marcel. He's always angry. Don't hang out with Marcel. He'll knock you out, right? Don't hang out with Marcel because you'll do some wild shit, right? So I had to learn, man, that I cannot excuse my actions due to an emotional problem. So it wasn't a verbal conversation or a conscious decision. It was just a change of pattern, a change of life. You know, the death of my daughter brought me closer to my children. I was already close with my children. I'm their dad, duh,
Right.
right? But it made me overbearingly somewhat kind of sickening and put like, what
I
are you
love
doing, right?
you. I love
Right,
you.
I love you. Right. And I still do that today. I still call them my good dad. And they're
You
like,
gotta
dude,
say
you're
it. You gotta
50.
say it while they're here.
You know what I mean? And so for me, like that replaced the time that I went and played pool or the time that I went and hung out and played or did bar stuff with my buddies. Right. And I found a different value that fulfilled a part of my life that I needed at that point. Right. And I found a great comfort in that. Right. And through the comfort that I found in the reconnection or realignment with my, I guess you could say, time, right? I really started to understand um the purpose and my purpose, dude. And my purpose was um to really express the pain that I feel around something that I miss the most, and that's time, dude. Like that's my biggest resentment towards suicide is that it took a lot of fucking time from my kid, from me, from what could be, and I deal with that in a informative and caring and compassionate way because I think that that is the kind of time I miss the most. And so I try to spend that time with people. Um, and some weird universal way, as you spoke of a higher power, that eases the pain of the absence of my daughter. And in giving of my soul and giving of my emotion and giving of my time and my thought, it becomes your new life, right? And it's not a new life, it's just a part of your life that was unlocked by something else in your life, right? And you can choose to let it control you and consume you and destroy you, right? Become trapped by it. Or you can, in some weird, sick way, become obsessively resentful towards it and move to defeat it in a vehement nature that is nonviolent, but using exactly what it took from you to take everything from it.
Mm.
So for me, man, the moment that my daughter died, I knew I had to do something different, you know, um, because what I was doing wasn't working, you know. I couldn't avoid it because I didn't cause it, right?
Right.
You know how when you cause shit, you can kind of avoid it, you can take responsibility for it and be like, make amends.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, no one saw, I didn't see this coming, dude, right? I don't have any guilt around my daughter's passing because I have a beautiful relationship with my kids. I communicate with them openly. We disagree, we agree, whatever, right? Um, and I have the dreams and the aspirations of I wonder how my daughter would be right now, you know? Um, but then I have the reality of it is if she was this age, 28 or 26, I'm sorry, and she still suffered, how bad would that be for her?
Right.
And if she had children, how bad would that be for them? Not that she's a bad person, but that the inability for people to receive the mental health care that they need without shame or misdiagnosis is terrifying, man. And for a parent, I wouldn't want my child to suffer, you know? So that's why I do share how I share. Just talk from my heart, like I'm speaking, to my child or, you know, to you about your child or, you know, I don't know.
Well, one of the things that really struck a chord with me was you sent me a movie. Um, and
Mm,
that movie, I watched, I thought it was very great, very heartwarming. And I don't know if it's going to come out to everyone, if it's available for everyone to see, but I would encourage them, if it is, to go and watch it. But one of the things that struck a chord with me in that film was that, you had described pulling up to the house and the events around that. And it kind of ties back to my other question was, there's no right or wrong way to grieve. And you see it in TV shows, cop dramas, this and that, the other.
yeah,
And,
right,
oh, if, this person didn't grieve the right way, then they're
right.
judged or they're a suspect, this or that. And, you had described kind of your reaction, what was going through your head, how you
Mhm.
handled it. And, and I think I asked you in the conversation, and, my thoughts were, how the, how didn't you fucking melt down, lose your shit, freak the fuck out? Because I think I might have, but, everybody reacts differently. And
Right.
that was kind of why I had asked that question of, you know, was it a, was it conscious, or, was it just so
Dude, I don't
overwhelming
even,
and that you were so numb that you just didn't know what to do? And therefore you were like, you were still, almost because you had to be.
yep. That's exactly it. Like I had never experienced that in my circle of friends, in my family, in my childhood, my adult relationships, my dating, none of it. Not like none of it, like none of it. I had heard about it on the news, right?
Right.
You hear about celebrities, this, that, and the other, you're like, fuck, oh, I'm so sad I can't ever see that person in a movie again.
But it's never you until it's you, like one of my
Until it's
episodes.
you, and then you're you, and you're like, who do you call? What do you fucking what? And it's like,
Took out her
you
body.
know, y- no, it's like those scenes in the movies, right? Where like I can only equate it to like an old Western flick, right? And it's just this dude in the middle of the fucking desert. And it's all,
Yeah.
and everything around him is absolutely blurred out. And he's just there, like, what the fuck? Right? And although that moment seems like it lasts maybe hours or minute, it's seconds, or I'm sorry, it may seem like it lasts seconds. It's minutes, dude. Um, and I kind of had to sit still, man, to think about what to do, like you said, because um I come from a family of people who don't express their emotions appropriately, man. We freak the fuck out.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mine is
my
all
father was
anger.
my father was very abusive, did a lot of drugs. My brother is very violent. My mother is an enabler. My sister is just a victim, and I was too. And I saw the damage that it did to me, and I never wanted to cause that to anybody else. Um, and so I sat on it, man, and I thought about it, and I went to a meeting of Narcotics Anonymous, dude. The day my daughter died, March 26th, was a Wednesday afternoon at 4 p.m. I walked into a meeting and I said, "Hi, my name's Marcel, and I'm an addict, and my daughter just hung herself, and I don't know what to do. I don't know whether to go and beat everybody up or go jump off a bridge. I'm mad enough to go to a big five and steal as many bullets and guns as I can, but I know that that's not the logical, sensible thing to do. What I'm really seeking and searching for is the correct emotional response for what just actually rocked the shit out of me." So, with that being said, that statement, I had to take full responsibility for myself, right? Um, I couldn't use drugs and alcohol to hide from the fact that my daughter was dead, because when I came down, she'd still be dead. Fucking, we do the math, you know what I mean? You can't avoid something that's inept, it's there,
It's
you
finite.
know? It's there, dude. You can't. It's there. So instead of fighting it, running from it, or hiding from it, let's dance, motherfucker. Let's figure out what's going on. I know that you are my end. I know that you want me to come here faster than I should. I'm here to explain to you that's not going to fucking happen. I don't know why it's not going to happen, but it's just not going to fucking happen. Today's not the day, daddy. And that is my attitude. And that's been my attitude even through the hardest of times, man. The attempts on my own suicide attempts. Not today, buddy. We got close, but not today, buddy. Right?
That's one of those
And
hard things is that I know your situation is reversed, but just statistically, if a parent does that, then there's a 1 in 3 chance that the
and
child
that's the
will.
thing too. That's the thing too, is like for me, like I'm all about beating the odds. You know? I'm the last child of a biracial family in inner city. I'm low budget. I have a high success rate for prison, drug addiction, or death. I'm not in any one of those motherfuckers, and I'm making a difference. And I'm making a difference in my life because I feel different than I did before, right? And that different I feel is better. And how does that better feeling come? By telling the truth about the things that haunt me and call me closer to being that person that's angry, to being that person that's not here anymore because he may feel like he has no fucking worth, or he's misunderstood, or she's just a mom, or she's just a kid. She's just my stepkid. I stay here for that, dude. That's me. I'm a stepkid. I'm a big-headed, small-bodied little dude who had body image issues in the early 80s before they called it body image issues. I'm a survivor of sexual abuse. I'm a survivor of child abuse, but I don't call it a survivor because you know what? That was then. And there's no way in hell at this present moment in day you would ever get away with the shit you did when I was a kid. So we'll call a loss a loss. You'll take yours, I'll take mine, and you won't ever do that to me again. Right? And so I never ever want suicide to hit me again. And so I fight every day. I fight every day to keep the people that I love near me by being a person that is here to listen and help them or love them. I also tell on myself. And I don't tell on myself to stay cool or to be popular or thirst trap or be a sex symbol. I tell on myself because that shit terrifies me. And just like a little kid, when you're not safe, you're taught to tell somebody. So, yeah, when my emotions and my feelings don't make me feel safe, fucking tell somebody. And if the first person doesn't listen, I run to the next person and I say, hey, I'm going through it. And then I run to the next person until that one person says, hey, little boy, come here. And I run up and say, I don't understand this at all. And they go, it's cool. It's a safe space. Let's find out what's going on. Just sit here. And that's all really where people strive to be because they can have an opportunity to figure shit out, you
When
know?
did you figure out that telling on yourself was the way for you? Like, you know, I'm sure it's a process. Everybody, I know you still have tough days,
Oh yeah.
but then somebody may see you on a good day,
Yeah.
or they may come across, let's say, a more positive message on
Yeah.
TikTok or Instagram, and they think that, oh, he's in a good spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's got it figured out. But, they only see, like anything, nobody sees the shit, the 8 years
That's
of
why I do it. That is
heartache.
exactly why. That's why I do it. Because everybody in the world right now portrays a cookie cutter. I'm perfect. Look at my bullshit ass life. And even when they're struggling, all they do is this. Hey, sit down with me for a second. I know it's rough, but listen, sometimes you just gotta dust your shit off and get back up. And it's completely disingenuous. It's absolute dog shit. And so, what I, as a person, right, I've never fit into a group, man. I'm not one of them dudes.
Me either.
Yay! Fuck you guys. I'm gonna be over here, right? And so, I'm not in a group of naysayers or truth tellers. I'm just me. And what I do is I show people unapologetically all of me. I don't show you just the happy stuff. I show you the sad stuff. Do I give a fuck if you stay for both? Nope. Right? That's where telling on myself works because I'm not sharing myself with people for them to like me.
That took
I'm sharing,
practice.
nah,
No?
I've never been liked, man. I mean, people have listened. People have said, "Oh, you're so cute when you're a baby. Oh, you're so cute. You're so handsome. Look at your dimples. Look at your eyes." Cool. I get it. I get it, right? That beautiful picture, that sexy man with the dimples and the blue eyes and the gray hair and the what about the dude inside? Have you ever walked into an apartment that looked beautiful on the outside and you walk in and it smells like straight cat shit?
Rarely. Sometimes.
Right? But you've done it. You've done
Yeah.
it. That shit is unpleasant,
Maybe the other way
right?
around. You could have
And
a
have you
bad
ever
outside.
walked into something that looked really unkempt on the outside? And you walked in and it was simple, it was clean, and it was comfortable, right? That's really what it is, man. I let people inside. You can stay outside and throw rocks all you want to. I don't give a fuck. The more you throw inside means the more I got to throw from inside to outside, right? So I don't I tell my story because it's my story to be told. I was given a voice to use as we were given ears to hear. We were also given the power to choose who we listen or speak to. I'm not doing anything special. I'm just being myself. I'm an expressive human being who has had a unique set of circumstances occur in his life, and he hasn't gone batshit crazy yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's really how I keep my life. Because if I was to really honestly sit back and give 100% attention and credit to the atrocities that I've suffered, I wouldn't be sitting here today. I wouldn't have survived my daughter's death. I wouldn't have survived my first child abuse. I wouldn't have survived the years of molestation. I wouldn't have, right? So we got to keep it cooking, Daddy. Those things happened to me, not because of me, right? I didn't go up to that dude and say, touch me. I didn't do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say, Dad, get really super high on a bender and beat the shit out of me in the middle of the night. Didn't do that either, right? I didn't ask my daughter to kill herself, and I didn't tell her either. Those things happened to me. They didn't happen because of me. So I shouldn't beat myself up for those things because I'm here to talk to you about them today, which means logically and evidently, I'm stronger than I think I am.
You are.
And
Because
we all are, as we all are. What we lack is that reassurance from other people. And the way that I've found to get that reassurance without even really wanting it is to tell on myself. I reassure myself by saying the truth about what happened to me, right?
I think
Because
people
it,
often see us different than we see ourselves.
dude, totally.
So whenever you're, I think when you're sharing that, telling on yourself, as you would say, and you either get positive or negative feedback, but
You're going to
you
get
know,
them both.
yeah,
You're going to get them both.
always.
In the world, you have to understand there's two sides to everything. There's positives and negatives. Frustration lies when you try to ignore or battle the existence of one. Accept it, try to understand it. You have to use negatives as well as positives in this life to fucking live. Stop fighting the difference and understand. Try to embrace the difference and jump into it. Then you'll find there's no difference at all.
And it definitely ties into a couple of things we've mentioned in the past, but my within the conversation, but I think, you know, my part of it is like being able to look at you and like there had to be a point where you're like, you know, because as a kid or a young person surviving abuse and or molestation, it's easy to be a victim. And even with what happened with your daughter, you could have a victim mentality, but you know, it's some you've chosen not to be a victim of any of it. You've chosen to be both a fighter and an advocate. And that's kind of a conscious thing. And I know like, was there a point maybe like you got bigger and you were able to defend yourself, that something that gave you some confidence that you could be you, you could overcome certain things, and therefore I'm not a victim. I choose who I want to be. I'm this confident person who can overcome things, if that makes sense. I'm trying to.
Well, I don't. So the thing is, for me, when I was a kid, it never really was survival, right?
Mhm.
Survival in my mindset is you're in the jungle, you have bare feet, you got a Bowie knife, and 4 days to go.
Right.
That's survival, right? So when I grew up living, right? So I like to say I lived through, right? Molestation. That was something that I couldn't tell anybody, right? Out of fear. That was, I survived that kind of, right? Because I didn't die, right?
Mhm.
But and he never got caught. He died with his sins, but whatever. When that ended, I was no longer a victim, right? Because it wasn't happening anymore. I survived it because it wasn't happening anymore, right? And I no longer have to dwell on it because I processed it. I understood that I wasn't a person that was weak, right? I was manipulated and he was used for my emotional response to this person, right? So I didn't have to hurt over that anymore. And the things that I figured out about myself, right? I'm the only Marcel in the world. That's me,
Right.
Marcel Roston. Hi, right? But there are other gentlemen and women that may have experienced the same scenario
Mm-hmm.
or the same emotional response. Those people may still be in survival mode, right? Because they haven't gotten a chance to tell somebody. I just want to be that dude I'm like the French fry that's at the bottom of the box, wedged down there. You know, I've been here. It's okay. You know, it's okay to be here.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. So, like I said, man, I'm just a person with a voice. I don't look at myself as a survivor. I just look at myself as still living.
See, I'm like I always say everything's a process. Things are about the process.
Right.
And I'm intrigued definitely when I hear you say like, you had gone through it, therefore, and processed it. Therefore, you didn't have to be a victim. You didn't have to feel those feelings. And so I'm amazed at kind of your ability to process these emotions, these thoughts in order to move forward to create positivity. From that time till now, because it's been a long journey, what are some of the tools and techniques you've used to process, to go through, to work through, to get to that place where you're like, I'm not a victim. I lived through it. I'm, you know, and I'm going to continue moving forward with something positive. What are different tools and techniques either you learned as a young person, because I know in the movie you mentioned you'd gone for in therapy for a while.
Oh yeah.
um
Therapy is amazing, right? But here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. I started going to therapy at I was 12 years old. I was 12 years old. I had just um I had just successfully completed my first self-harm act. I broke my own wrist with a tea kettle in my grandma's house. I came home from school on a half day and smashed the shit out of my wrist with a tea kettle because I was really mad at my mom and dad for getting a divorce and no one really had time to talk to me. I was just like collateral damage, like the fucking plus one. That's what I felt. But I wanted to understand why my mom and dad weren't living together and why my mom was dating other people and why my dad was doing a bunch of drugs and yelling at people with pistols in the fucking streets. So that got me into therapy, right? And I addressed the need, right? I got the words out that I needed to do, and that took about 2.5, 3 years, right? And I stayed in therapy because everybody else thought it worked for me, you know? Well, keep going to therapy. Yeah. Right. So at that point, you start knowing what to say. Oh, this is Mark. What's up, Mark? Oh, he's my therapist. You guys want to go have a cheeseburger? So you don't get anything out of it, right? So um I challenge myself, man, and I tell people, go to therapy. When you go to therapy, go to fix yourself. Go to challenge yourself and challenge your therapists. And if your therapists don't give you the feelings of relief, the feelings of attention, connectivity, really an intimate connection. And if you look up the word intimate, it's not sexual or
Right.
physical at all. Just focus on you as a person. It'll help you, right? But we have to chase therapy like we're trying to save our lives. We're not just going to go and settle for the first therapist and leave that person frustrated. We want to yearn to go to therapy so that we can learn more tools to exist outside of therapy, right? Then we can become able to practice what we learn, right? We learn every day. We learn coping skills from therapy. You learn things that bother you, how to stop them, right? Therapy works, but you have to work it. Self-help groups, right? But the same thing. You can go to self-help groups to fulfill your need of abandonment or your need to feel part of, and that might be enough for you, and that's great. But if you're going to self-help groups and meetings, go there with a purpose, and that purpose is to fix you. So share with no fear, because there's nothing that happened to you today, right? That you have to be afraid of, right? There's nothing happened 20 years ago you have to be afraid of today. You can fix it, and it's safe, right? That's really um, one of the biggest things. But pay attention to what your therapists challenge you to implement in your life, behavioral changes. When you are presented with a situation that may cause you to be angry, pause for a moment and think about it. Why are you angry? Is it because you're not being heard? Is it because your feelings are hurt? Is it because this person isn't intelligent? There's a whole crap load, a checklist of questions that we don't run through before we blow up, right? Right? Because it's easier to clean up a mess sometimes.
Hmm. I've heard that saying, like, that sometimes if, like, let's say you see someone do something and it irritates the shit out of you and you want to say something and they're like, well, sometimes what what about them is pissing you off is what you do exactly.
Right,
It pisses
right.
you
What
off
what
because you
irritates
do it.
you? What irritates you the most in other people is what you lack to see in yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and or lack to address in yourself, and that's true. You know, that's true. And so I try to be accountable to myself, and I stand on basic moral principles:
Mm-hmm.
respect, integrity, honesty, loyalty. Those are the things that really just they don't, I don't like to say the word trigger, dude. That's a fucking part of a gun. They cause emotional responses. They cause people to respond in an emotional way, right? And so I just like to I like to keep myself safe. I know what makes me happy. I know what makes me feel good, right? And so what if I'm a little bit chunky? I'm 48 years old. When I put on my shoes, I know that that makes me feel good, right? To be aware that I'm a little bit chunky, and damn it, I need to start walking more or smoking less or eating less cheeseburgers, right? But I'm not lying to myself. I'm not saying, oh, fuck, I need to get bigger pants. No, you're fat, stupid.
I always say sometimes you got to nourish the body, other times you got to nourish the soul. It's
I
all
just
about
say you can eat
balance.
until you don't want to eat anymore, or you can eat till you're full, you know? But then again, that's on you, because I don't know what your journey is.
Right.
I don't know how beautiful your flower is, bro, until you let me see it. Right. And if I come into your garden kicking and screaming and throwing shit around, nope, I'm gonna suck right back in. Right. But if I come into your garden and I say, damn, look at all these flowers, and I sit down and I just take a second to look at your petals, to smell the aroma, you know, maybe your stem is a little bit bent, maybe your leaves are a little bit beat up, maybe you're sitting in dry soil, but you're still a beautiful flower, right? Because you're here, you know. So taking a chance and taking a second to learn something, right? About somebody else, but you're also learning something about yourself. You have the ability to do that. right?
Yeah, especially if you see, because one of the things with the podcast is I believe that we're all fundamentally alike, yet we
Yeah.
fight over differences. And so, it's one of those things of kind of like you said, is, you know, you can make a connection with someone and you can see, you can talk about
Mhm.
what we're alike, but um sometimes, when you said, hey, sometimes we're learning something about ourselves, is sometimes it's in the opposite of that, the differences
Yeah.
of knowing how we're not alike. And then you can begin to ask yourself some questions of, oh, maybe that's why it creates an emotion in me or a
Yeah.
response. Or I found the older I get that sometimes, and well, the more I sit with myself and the more inner work I do, I
Mhm.
go, oh, maybe that's why. And
Yeah.
you're just like out of nowhere, that's why I do this,
Mhm.
that's why I do that. And you're like, how come it took so long to figure it out, you know but
I don't know.
sometimes it was a simple conversation, but things happen kind of as
Yeah,
they need to, when they need to. uh,
exactly.
if you believe in kind of a universal law. But so like you said, therapy, and as a lot of people would describe therapy as about getting tools, putting tools in your toolbox in order to be able to address problems and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have tools that help address that. But then there's other times, there's music therapy, there's art therapy,
Right.
there's time to express.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people, once they go follow you over on TikTok and Instagram, they're going to
Art.
understand that
What?
you do some artwork. I've seen it. I love it. I love the colors and whatnot. And you were talking about some different techniques, but how did you come across artwork? Was it something within therapy that they recommended, or was it kind of like
Ooh.
a, hey, let's do some art therapy? This kind of helps because I know with kids, or sometimes there's different ages, different things speak to them, or they use different modalities. Or was it something that you just kind of one day are like, I need to express what the fuck I'm feeling and let me try this? And then it kind of turned into a passion. Or how did you get
Okay,
into
so
art?
funny story. I used to write stories when I was a kid. Like for my family, I used to draw pictures like Adam Ant and the family, and I'd make books, and then I would do shows like performances, not like dress up and puppets and all that shit. I'll just tell the story, right? So that was at a young age, right? So I did that, and then I drew a lot of pictures when I was a kid. And then when my mom and dad got divorced, and I was in fifth and sixth grade, I wrote poetry. I started to write poetry, right? And I was like, this is pretty cool. So that carried me through um, sixth and seventh and eighth grade. Ninth grade, I go to high school. I got art as an elective, you know, and I'm thinking, yeah, that's cool, get a chance to do some sculptures or shit, whatever, right? Because it wasn't really at that time, I didn't recognize it as an art or like a form of expression. I just thought it was cool shit I did
Right.
that people liked. Because like artwork as a kid, you're like, oh, here's another stupid turkey picture. Mom, fucking put it on the fridge, right? No. So as I got older, I went into ninth grade and I met Miss Bradley. Miss Bradley, this Miss Bradley was my ninth grade art teacher. She was she's a black woman and she had really long fingernails. And I remember the first week of class, we were doing drawing exercises, circles, right? Because she wanted to fluidity. We were doing sketching and stuff like that. Um, and she came up to my table and said, "Are you left-handed?" I said, "Yep." And she said, "You're going to fail this class because there's no good left-handed artists." And I was like, in my head, I was like, "Fuck you, stupid." And I did fail the class because I sucked, but whatever. Here's the thing. So it kind of shut me down, right? And throughout life, I'd always carried a literary passion. I'd always write texts, letters, poems, things like that. In high school, I did a little bit of school paperwork. Like I was the editor in chief, wrote the sports section, stuff like that. Um, it wasn't until maybe a year ago, I don't know, maybe a year ago, I thought about painting, right? And I looked at painting as portraits. I can't fucking do that. I can't draw. Ask Miss Bradley. She'll tell you I suck. I'm left-handed. Um, so, but I love colors. And I wanted to figure out if I could do it. I saw a video on YouTube and it was really cool, little trippy, psychedelic kind of thing. And I said, fuck, I could do that, man. So I went to Hobby Lobby with $20. I bought some paints, bought all the stuff I needed, put it on a piece of canvas. And I showed it to somebody and they said, damn, man, that's cool. And instantaneously, it brought me back to my childhood when I was writing stories for my family at Easter's and Thanksgivings and shit. And I got all that praise, right? But here's the kicker: all of the emotional trauma that I suffered from the divorce, all the way up to high school, makes me question myself still to this day. So when I make a piece of art, I show it to people and they love it. I want them to have it, right? Because I want to make sure that they like it. Because a lot of people are like, oh, I love it. Thoughts and prayers. And fucking, you know. So it's been a great experience for me to put those colors on canvas, right? And put those colors on a medium. Um, and are they indicative of my emotional state at the moment? I would say no. But sometimes I would say no, because if I'm not in a good mood, I won't paint,
Okay.
right? I just won't. The color schemes, I think, reflect on a lot of my past, a lot of my journey, I think is reflected in the colors that I use. Because I use a dark, then I also use a vibrant fluorescent and a few neutrals. And I'm getting a lot real technical, and it's not that technical. I just put paint in a cup and put the shit on a canvas, and it comes out, and I leave it alone. Um, and it gives me a moment of release. It gives me a moment of um freedom from my anxiety, because I can't, once the paint is poured, you can't put it back in the cup.
That's true.
You can't put that shit back. So you just gotta let it go.
Do something with it. Make it
Right. And
happen.
so that's a life lesson, right? So we have to let it go. Right. But once the cup is moved off the canvas, have control of the paint in the direction that it moves.
Oh,
And I can move my life in the direction I choose to also. No matter what the colors, dark or light, that are within my life, I always have that ability. But right. But when I run out of canvas, I don't have a choice. So it makes me respect the size of the canvas, the amount of colors I want to use, and the direction in which I want the entire design to flow.
wow. Spoken. That's powerful. Um, I, I'm always, I have this interest, uh, of going, okay, why did I join TikTok? Why do I stay? It's because of the people. I joined to promote the podcast. I stayed because of people like you and stories like this.
Holy
So it
shit.
sounds like painting
Yeah.
started off as one thing,
Yeah.
but it's evolved. It now means something different to you. Um,
Well, does a flower does a flower stay a seed its whole life?
no, very well, very well put. And I think that's kind of the um, something that people can take away is sometimes you just need to do something. Um, you feel a certain way. You and I posted something yesterday that it's better to take a step in the wrong direction than to sit still and do nothing at all or remain paralyzed. And and this turned out to be something the way you describe it and how you were able to metaphorically kind of attach it to life shows the meaning and the power that it has. But I wouldn't have never have expected to hear you say that if you're not happy, you don't paint. Because I played guitar for a while, I haven't played in a while, but sometimes when you're sad, you play. What do when you do feel down, what is something that you do since it's not painting that to either help get your mind, your physical state, your emotions moving in a different direction, or you know, because
Cry.
distraction's not great.
I
Leaning
cry.
into it, cry.
I cry. I cry. If there's something on my heart that hurts, I cry. Fucking cry. I don't hold it in. And when someone says, "Why are you crying, Marcel?" I don't go because I miss this person, or I miss this thing, or I long for this, or I long for that, or I'm disappointed in this, I'm disappointed in that, right? I face it, I sit in it, right? Because if I sit in it, I'm giving it the respect it deserves, I'm giving it the attention it needs, and I'm banging it out. When I bang it out, I'm teaching myself two things. I have the ability to share, and I'm stronger than I thought. I'm not the strongest person in the world because tomorrow, I don't know what's going to happen. There could be a bus that runs through my house, right? But I know if tomorrow, if the same bullshit happens today, I don't have to overreact because I've been through it, right?
Uh, I like that. I think it's
And so if we tell on ourselves, man, and we don't run from it, I don't run from it. I can't. It all goes back to the finite details of end. I don't want to spend my life in turmoil. Therefore, I have to deal with events and incidents in my life that cause or may create turmoil. It's really simple. And in a world of complex, accelerated advancement, simplicity is overlooked and often called strange. But it's really the origin where this fast paced world began. The difference between myself and a lot of other people is I don't forget where I've come from. I'm not still where we started. I'm not there. I'm not where we all began. I'm far, far, far advanced. But my feet, my heart, and my head stay deeply rooted in the core principles that give me the ability to experience life every day, blinking and breathing. I don't have control over either one of those at all. So I make 100% effort to make the best of every moment, right? Car accident happens. What's good about that, Marcel? Ugh. Well, after everybody's taken care of in the ambulances, somebody's getting a new fucking car. That's pretty cool. Or maybe the accident was caused by an unforeseen medical issue that just showed up. Thankfully, the good thing is that no one was hurt. And we also discovered that Uncle Johnny can't drive because he's got a strange heart rhythm. So no harm, no foul. We got Johnny fixed up and we get a new car. How many bonuses have we found in a negative? Right?
very true.
Now,
That happens a
now
lot.
society will tell you, Johnny should have never been driving, and you're a terrible person, and it's responsible, and your license should be revoked, and you should person. No, fucking shut up. Shut up. Shut up. The negative is there, as is the positive. And even in a negative, you can find a positive. If you shift your focus of direction, you can see the same world in a different light. I challenge you, if you're listening to this right now and you are in a relationship with someone and you live with them and you're the primary driver, I challenge you to sit in the passenger seat for a week. On your regular route, your regular thing, sit in the passenger seat. Don't drive for a week. Tell me how beautiful the other side of the street is. And then as you sit there and notice it, it's pretty cool, right? Now you take that and you equate it to life. Your side of the car is different than mine. If I don't sit in your seat, can't understand it. I don't want to sit in it if you put a bunch of bullshit in there, right? You don't want to sit in mine if it's the same.
Yeah. Whenever you say positive and negative, it it automatically and made so much sense of triggering like even the car battery. It's got a positive and a negative.
That's
Got to
it.
have
You
both.
can't, you
It
can't
won't
do
work without it.
salt and pepper. Hello. Hello.
And not the band, or maybe the band.
Baby the band, you
Um,
know?
let me see. I wrote down some questions.
Okay.
We had talked about earlier. Um,
Let's talk about buttered sausage. Let's talk about where it comes from. Let's talk about what it's made of. Shut up, Gary Busey. Yeah.
let's talk about um 988
All
and
right.
as it how it relates to you.
It's a fantastic number. I've never ever in my life had um had a number like an emergency number dedicated to suicide and mental health. It's pretty awesome. I learned about it about 9 years ago. It was coming down the pipe. I learned about it through the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, the San Diego chapter. Shout out to Jennifer Vanderstad and Che Hernandez and Ellie Kennedy. Those are all three members of that organization in San Diego that really, really, really welcomed me and made it okay. But 988 was a bill that was proposed to form a emergency mental health line, suicide prevention hotline. Suicide doesn't get talked about at all, except for twice a year. Once the suicide prevention month, which is September, right? And the other time is when a celebrity dies by suicide, right? Like Robin Williams or Kate Spade or Anthony Bourdain or whoever, right? Jeffrey Epstein. So or Twitch, that guy too, Aaron Gonzalez or Hernandez or whatever, him too. So like, I thought it was really cool because like, what if my daughter had that, right? What if Robin Williams had that? What if Junior Seau had that, right? That'd be pretty fucking cool, right? Chester Bennington, what if he had that, right? That'd be pretty fucking cool. So why not be a part of something cool, right? Boom. It's plastered all over my truck. I drove from San Diego, California in 2021 from San Diego, California to Washington, D.C. To advocate and actively participate in town hall meetings, community meetings, and really the push for that to be on the bill and be approved so that it is active here in the United States of America. And it's all over the world, except for in Ireland, because I don't know what they do in Ireland. They got another number. But Um, yeah, 988 is a really cool number, man. And I actually have a hat. It's in my bedroom, and it has the number 988 across it, and it has "Tomorrow Needs You" on the back. And I've had that hat for like 3.5 years, man. Just like I have this "Tomorrow Needs You" hat, just like this "Tomorrow Needs You" sweatshirt. Um, it's not just a logo, it's a way of life for me, you know. And I just represent, I don't represent "Tomorrow Needs You." "Tomorrow Needs You" represents me.
How did how did what what gave you the courage? Because I mean, so many people, I think often they could have said like, yes, the 988 thing is cool and so welcomes you in, but there's a there's a difference between people who want to change things, who maybe talk about wanting to change, and then people who actually go out and become a part of it and advocate. What was it, what made you different to be able to just say, hey, I'm gonna go do it? And then kind of how did the experience make you feel? What did it give you back internally by giving up some of yourself?
So the reason I do what I do is because because no one else does it. Everyone talks about it. Very rarely do they do it. Um, and even more so, those that do it aren't talked about. They're not. And so I didn't want to be that person that just said, "I'm gonna do this," and then not do it. Right. So I did it. I said I was gonna do something, and I did it. Um, and that's really my motivation, man, is there's people who are full of shit in this world, and then there's people who are not. I am not one of those people
Keep
who
your
is
word
full
to
of shit,
yourself.
you know? And I'm accountable for my actions, and I'm accountable for my words. And so I wanted to bring a little bit of accountability to suicide and suicide prevention and mental health reform and review and treatment, because I not only suffer, but I'm a survivor of suicide loss. So um, everyone chases their passion differently. I just happen to be a vehemently vocal and absolutely purpose driven, laser focused assassin when it comes to the reality of suicide and mental health, right? Because I could sit here uh, in a suit and tie and tell you the same story, but it wouldn't sit as deep, right? And conversely, I could sit here in a pair of sweatpants and t-shirt and tell you about the ROI on a 401k versus a Roth IRA, right? You'd hear every word, it wouldn't sink. So you're trying to be something you're not. I'm not going to pretend that I don't hurt, but I'm not going to hurt you just to let you know that I'm hurting, right? And I kind of take it personal, man. Suicide took my daughter, so I got to take everything from suicide. I can't wait for someone else to help me because they're not going to feel the same emotional attachment that I do, right? And sitting and waiting only forms a resentment based on misunderstanding that can never be reached because it hasn't happened to that person. So I speak just my emotions freely in the hopes that other people will find the courage to speak, not out of favoritism, just out of the ability to speak. Like, it's a beautiful gift, man. I make my words count. I make my words matter because I'm trying to work on some things here, you know? I'm trying to work on some things in my heart and my head. 988 is a beautiful number that should be free for everyone forever. and I hope one day that 988 becomes more than a phone number. It just becomes a way of life, and we talk to people face to face as we would call 988. I want to get back to the home phone days where it was attached to the wall and we talked to people every day on the phone. That's what I would like to get back to. Yeah.
It was like when you speak, it always triggers thoughts in my head, and it made me think of, like the way you
Morgan
speak,
Freeman.
talking about, no, you talk about like making your words count. And I think about how you were willing to go there and advocate and take action. And I relate it back to you saying that you would write the little stories for your family, and that sometimes we never know, but you know, perhaps your passion, your ability for writing, communicating in that manner, um, set you up inadvertently, even though it was under horrible circumstances and
Mhm,
situation, but to be
mhm.
able to go and be that voice because you are one that makes your words count. Um, and so, to me, I just, as Hunter would say, everything is connected. That's the name of his podcast. But, when you look back and you go, hey, from here to there, you know, and I came across a post of yours as well that, many people don't know that your vehicle has some decorations on it, one of your
No
trucks.
decorations. They're not
And
decorations. They're signatures and names.
they're mean,
Decorations go
yes.
on fucking trees.
There you go. I stand corrected. My
Decorations go
apologies.
on fucking trees and cakes.
But
That's
the
a
point
truck.
the point was that I understood a little bit more about you and who you were when I saw that. Um, let's talk about tell us about your truck for a moment
Oh, my 2000 or yeah, my 2003 Dodge Ram
and what it means
quad.
to you and everybody
Oh man.
who's on it.
All right. So that Dodge Ram, that four-door Dodge Ram that sits in front of my house, uh, actually has a pretty beefy story to it. I was I was laid off from work for quite a while and under a lot of stress and in a really bad way. And I had tried to talk to a few of my friends about starting a business, right? And trying to get me out of being unemployed, right? And different investors and business partners and stuff like that. And I got to the point where my truck, I didn't have a car, didn't have a car. I couldn't get to work. And I called my friend and I said, hey, um, I've been trying for about 4.5 months to get this thing off the ground, and no one's giving me the time of day, and it's really starting to piss me off. Um, and I said, I've worked on a business plan. I have it down to the penny, and I just want to let you know, man, you can come pick it up because I don't think I'm going to be here tomorrow, And he said, I'll come pick you up right now, and if you run that business proposal by me, we can make some things happen. So he picked me up. We went to go get Mexican food, and I told him what my business idea was, and it was to open a hot dog cart. Um, and he said, your business plan is solid, but how are you going to pull this? How you gonna move a hot dog cart? Right? So, well, I guess I need a truck. And he goes, yeah, I guess you do, huh? Because you can't borrow mine. And I said, that's understandable. And so he bought me a truck, bought a truck, bought a hot dog cart, and we started the business. I was no longer unemployed. I was making a difference and I was making him payments, paying him back for the truck. And then the pandemic hit. When the pandemic hit, no one bought food anymore from street vendors. Everybody was locked in their houses. So I didn't sell hot dogs anymore. I went back to work part-time, and that didn't work out. I subsequently was kicked out of my house, man. My girlfriend broke up with me because I was not making any money. And that sucked really bad, and it hurt me as a man. And the only thing I had was a duffel bag in my truck. And uh, I felt like blowing my brains out. So I called my kids and I said, I love you and I'm sorry. And my daughter said, Dad, I love you. And I need you to fucking be here. And I said, okay. Um, I talked to my son and my son said, I love you, Dad. I said, I love you too, man. And he said, you're scaring the shit out of me. Are you okay? And I said, not at all. Not in the least. And I don't want to be here anymore. And I'm terribly sorry. And he said, okay, don't do anything stupid. Um, and then I got on social media, and I started to talk about, making fun of my kids like everybody else did. And when my relationship ended and I got kicked out of my house, the only place I could live was my truck. Um, when I had nothing left and I felt like dying and giving up, I wrote my daughter's name on my truck and I started to tell her story because that's what really hurt. That's where the hurt really was in the events of her passing. I hadn't grieved her loss yet. I guess you could say I faked it till I made it. Um, and then when all of the world fell apart, my dad died during COVID, and I got in my truck and told people I was going across country. I was driving to Washington, D.C. to share my story with people in the Senate to advocate for 988. People started to ask me if I could come by their house because they were suffering and struggling with mental health issues. Being a guy on TikTok, and people say, hey, come by my house if you're in my neighborhood, right? Dude, I think I had like 4,000 or 6,000 followers at the time. They didn't think I was going to come by their house. I said, shoot me a text, dude. Give me the address. I'll come by and have some mac and cheese with you. And I did. I did. Like 15 fucking people. Solid. Different states, Texas, Louisiana, Pennsylvania, New York, Boston, Connecticut, West Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, Oregon, Washington, California, Ohio, Chicago, Illinois, and what's the one in the middle? Tennessee. Yep. I hit all those states, dude. And everybody that I spoke to that
Mm-hmm.
lost someone to suicide, their name is on my truck. People have commented and contacted me through social media. Their loved ones are on my truck. The reason they're on my truck is because they still matter. There's still a problem called suicide, right? Like I said, I'm on a mission to destroy suicide. When I started this mission, it was just me and my daughter. Now I got about 100 and some odd people on my truck. Unfortunately, the numbers are getting bigger, but those people are still represented today. And they mean more today unfortunately, at times than they did when they were here. But they should never be forgotten, no matter how they left. So that is why I put their names on my truck. Because my daughter died by suicide, she still matters. People have lost their children. I fucking dare somebody to tell me that my daughter wasn't shit, that she didn't matter. So that's the message that I send to people about their loved ones that they've lost to suicide. Send me their names. I'll put them out there. I say my daughter's name every day. She's never going to leave this earth. Her name will always be here. She will always be here. Her legacy will always be one of change, one of beauty, one of turmoil, one of tragedy, but it'll be her legacy of life, right? And at the end of her life, we'll have that finality of death, right? But I want her story to be so beautiful. I want everyone to see those 17 years of beauty, right? So as vast as her story is told, it'll make her seem as she lived for centuries. And she didn't even make 2 decades. That's how much she means to me. That's how much those people mean to their families.
I
That's
think
why I
it's a
put them on my
beautiful
trip.
I think it's a beautiful thing that you do that not just for your daughter but for others who, because it kind of memorializes and helps them live on. And
Yep.
not only that, um in terms of, you know, you belong to a group of people. Unfortunately, it's not a group that a lot of people are fighting to get into.
Yeah, no one wants to be here. No one wants to be in this group, so I try to make it fun as fuck.
But you know what, you know, not only that though is, you know, what you do on the truck for that group matters for the group.
Oh yes, yes indeed.
And that's kind of, you know, one of the things. And then I'm sure every time somebody asks you a question, now you got a story and now you're able to push that forward and continue to raise awareness. And
It's a
speaking of that,
non Go ahead.
no, you good.
It's a non-invasive way.
Mm-hmm.
It's a non-invasive way to advocate for inclusion,
So
despite. Go
how
ahead.
are these conversations going when people ask? Because I was going to ask you, like,
What do
how do
all
you
the
think
names on
mental
your
health
truck
is
mean?
going? How do you think these conversations are people receptive? Are people picking up? Do you see that people are more open, expressive towards mental health and
I think
suicide?
I think that they're not. It's not towards mental health and suicide. I think people are becoming more expressive.
Uh-huh.
Um, and with that positive, there is a negative, right? That negative is that there are people who are professionally manipulating people into thinking that they suffer from mental and emotional difficulties and they don't. So, within that positive of people sharing their story and getting the help that they need and expressing that need and the importance of mental health, there's always that negative. So, the diligence and vigilance of the message is every day. I don't have to fight anybody because I'm just me, right? I include and welcome everybody because why not, right? People display um, a lot more emotions, but we're not nowhere near even remotely close to average on, personal experience versus expression. However, I'm happy about the evolution, right? Of communication and mental health. And I just want to be a part of it. That's all.
What continues to give you hope?
Fuck, when I
Or
wake
is it
up, dude.
faith? Or is it faith that
No, it all starts when I wake up, dude. If I wake up, that's when it starts. When my eyes open, boom. And it's like there's people and things, that's when it starts, dude. That's when it starts. That's when it starts. It's like I could be consumed by the thoughts that I'm concerned about and stay right here, or I could be motivated to change my appearance, my mood, or my setting, and I could get up and do something. There's no one above me, below me, beside me, or underneath me that's cracking a whip telling me I got to do it at this certain time, got to do it at this certain pace, I got to do it at this certain way. It's just me. And I've got to want something more than the bad that I've had. And in order to have something more than the bad that I've had, it takes a little bit of work. It doesn't take a lot of work. It looks like it takes a lot of work, but it doesn't. It doesn't. It's maintenance. Building it is not even, it's hard. Building it's hard. Maintaining that shit easy because it becomes your way of life, right? Becomes you're just you. I brush my teeth with both hands. Why did you say that? I don't know. Who cares? It's me, right? We learned with one hand. Some of us learned with two because we were little. I had a big ass toothbrush, right? So the progression of mental health is great. Are we going to see the absolution of suicide in my lifetime? I hope so. Probably not. I'm doing my due diligence to express and emphasize the awareness of it and its ineffectiveness to humanity. That's it, man. That's my job. Whatever comes from that, I got to deal with it when it comes here, if I want to. If not, that's for the next dude.
So, speaking of that, there was
Oh,
a
shit.
couple of things I noticed from both the movie, um, but
Should
also,
we put I should put the movie out for everyone to see, huh?
do you have a
I
YouTube
think
channel? Yeah,
I do.
it should be on there.
All right, I'll put
If
it
it's
on there.
not, I think
All
I
right,
had to
I'll put it.
stop. I had to stop 2 minutes in because it was late, and I was like, I don't know if I can handle this late. But then I just felt compelled, and I ended up watching the whole thing, and I felt better by the end, um, because I understood more. But it was very heavy. But I think coupled with this interview conversation, it paints a greater picture. And kind of what I wanted to talk about was what you have your Tomorrow Needs You, and
Mhm.
you do have a not for profit,
I do.
and I want you to talk about that. Maybe
Mhm.
some of the challenge, you know,
Oh, there's
how,
challenges there.
how you ground it out, kind of, and I know this because I've talked this on podcast. I've talked about it on podcast, but your why has to be strong in order to keep going and get past all the bullshit obstacles that kind of stuff is going to place in your path. And so let's talk about that, the obstacles, overcoming them, and Tomorrow Needs You a little bit.
Okay, so Tomorrow Needs You was actually a hashtag that one of my followers on TikTok created. And I chose it to embody um, my movement with that. And so let's see let's see. The first question was, where did it come from and what is it? So the first question, where did it come from? It's a grief and trauma resolution center here in North Las Vegas. That's what it is. Why is it here? Because there's no place where you can grieve or get help with your trauma without facing judgment or losing your job or some weird shit happening. So I essentially created a place where I could heal because I couldn't find a place to heal. Right. Um, And what does that look like? That looks like rooms where you can talk to people, rooms where you can rock out to music, rooms where you can bash the shit out of some water bottles. I don't care. I don't care. But there's also other means of therapy and other means that we employ and implement there. Um, how do I keep going through all of the bullshit? Um, the simple fact that I'm not bullshit. And I don't have to necessarily eliminate or worry about the bullshit because it's not in my way. It's a constant and it's something that I strive to eliminate. But I don't think that fighting the bullshit with bullshit works. Um, quite frankly, it's not worth my time. Like I said, if it comes across my path, I make sure to handle it with due diligence so it
Mhm.
doesn't come back up, right? I don't leave any stone unturned. Um, now there's an influx of nonprofits and there's an influx of mental health and there's an influx of both of those combined into one big fat center. 95% of the market is garbage ass investors who decided to make a nonprofit to apply for federal grants and loans. That is the unfortunate constant that I deal with every day, as do other people. I just bring it up because it's there. It doesn't stop me, right? It doesn't stop me, right? It's like a stop sign. You see it and you keep going. You stop for a second, you look at it, you acknowledge it, you keep going, right? So in my journey, I aspire to get to where stop signs are obsolete, right? Now, that's a long, hard road, and I can run it. Definitely can. And I can take a little bit of time off and I can build my own road off to the side. I can build my frontage road, right? That doesn't ignore those stop signs. I just avoid them. I've already
Wow.
been through there, right? Already been through there, right? So now I'm not a problem, right? I'm not a problem. I have a problem, and I'm on my way to fix this motherfucker by forming a nonprofit that addresses the problem that I suffer from, not paying attention to any other problem than what I suffer from. I'm not in 75 other lives or 48 different other communities trying to advocate and whore myself out to be the number one Barbie. I just want to be me. And it's easy to get lost in the distractions of the world because everything is shiny and bright and flashy and winky and blink and all that. Buy one, get one free shit. Just be here, man. Just be here. You know, you ask anybody in the world what's the most valuable gift you can give someone one
Time.
on one
Your time.
presence. This. I need you right here, right now. I don't give a fuck what's going on, right? Because we can get through things moment by moment, day by day, thing by thing, you know?
Yeah. So you created something for yourself,
Mhm.
and that's kind of like you almost see this with a lot of successful businesses or things that have made them way themselves into the world was somebody wanted something that they couldn't find. And um how how did it feel to start that? What was the process? Was it just like an idea and then you're like, I just got to figure this out? I'm going to research it a little. I'm just going to dive in feet first. And were
I
you
think it was all of
nervous
that.
or how'd you like some encouragement because there might be people out there who either want to help or maybe they
So
want to do their own thing.
what I did was I talked about it for a long time.
Mhm.
I want to build a center. I want to build for. I want to do this. 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 And I shared it with everybody. I want to do this. I want to do this. And they're like, fucking sweet. Fucking sweet. I got tired of waiting. I got tired of hearing the fucking sweet. So I just did it myself. I didn't know how to do it. So I picked up the phone and I asked the question, how do I start 501c? And a whole shitload of things came up. And I did every one of them. Boom, 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 boom. Cool. Now I have the ability to formulate a business plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's a business plan? Boom, 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 boom. How do I run it? How do you manage it? And you just ask these questions. And I got tired of asking everybody else, right? Because everybody else gave me this 3 responses. I'll text you in a minute. I'll call you after work, or I don't have time to do it right now. The texts and the calls never came. I can't expect someone to be as passionate about something that I am if they haven't experienced it.
Right.
So instead of expelling that energy and resentment towards another person, poured it into myself and I invested into myself and I improved my self-esteem by proving to myself that I not only could afford to pay for my own nonprofit, but I was smart enough to fill out the paperwork and form that son bitch by myself. Therefore, breaking a generational curse that I was told by my parents and my family, you'll never be nothing, dude. Don't even worry about it. Fuck you. I'm something. And I'm more than something. I'm a lot. I'm a whole lot. Right. But these are just achievements in the end goal. And the end goal is to end suicide. Right. So if I have to be the first person to make a grief and trauma resolution center for everybody to come to, like a 7-Eleven, come on. Therefore, changing the legacy of what was socially perceived as a failure into one of the greatest successes mankind has ever known.
Mm.
So, yeah, that's why I do it, because nobody else has done it.
It's like the more I conversate with you, the more I get to know you. Um, I just, I'm inspired by the story of, especially after watching the movie, knowing that it's come where you were, where you are. And I think, and it's always going to be a work in progress because we talked about before is that yes, days get easier sometimes, but you're never going to forget. It's always going to be there. Some days will be better than others.
I mean, unless I fuck around and have Alzheimer's.
Right.
That's the only plausible thing I'll be able to forget then,
And
right?
then we don't really know because we don't have the thoughts of an Alzheimer's person. We know they forget our names and this and that, the other, but we don't know
Right.
what they think inside. But this whole process, this whole thing from kind of where we started, like your movie starts, pulling up to the outside of that garage to where you are today, having created a movie, sitting on a podcast, telling the story, hoping that it's going to reach people. What have you learned about yourself?
And I'm a pretty kick-ass human. I'm a pretty kick-ass human, you know? That's it. I'm just a person, man. I'm a human. I'm a person, you know. I'm some could say I'm one decision away from being a billionaire. Some could say I'm one decision away from being dead. I'm just me, man. I'm here. Whatever the dream is, I'm living it, I guess, because I'm here, right? Good and bad dreams are perceived only by the fucking person who possesses them and then therefore shares them, you know? So it's like, how do I feel about myself? I still struggle with self-esteem, right? Because in the real world, in the social stature of the world, I've done some pretty big dick energy shit, right? So I have every quote unquote social right to be an asshole, be unapproachable for free, have booking fees, right? Right? I've walked through some shit, dude. I'm good. I'm good with that. I don't, I can earn money, man. You know, compassion is what needs to be shown. I dare somebody, I'll buy you $100,000 worth of groceries if you can order me a 12 pack of compassion on Amazon. Huh? And if I can possess something that you can't buy and I can give it to you freely without any requirement in return, that's it, dude. That's what I want to be able to do. That's what everybody wants. That's everybody's dream, is to be able to contribute to the world in some beautiful way. And if my beautiful way is to be compassionate without retribution being the first, or repayment being the first option, second option, or third option, then that's it, man. That's the color of my flowers of my petal. I'm that one cuckoo bird flower in the middle of the fucking jungle that's still there. You know what I mean? Shit on by
Yeah.
elephants and stomped on by gorillas and maybe chewed on by a couple of snails, but I'm still in this bitch. And as long as I'm here, I'm going to take as much sunlight as I need and as much water as I need. And I'm going to save some for someone who needs a little bit more if I can flick it on them. And if I have to show somebody how to just hold on through a cold winter or how to duck underneath a leaf in a hot summer, and then through the change of the season, get back out there and still be the sexy beast they are, I've done my job, man, because that's what I'm learning how to do every day. Every day, man, I'm learning how to hug myself through these storms. Every day, I'm learning how to stretch myself in this sunlight. Every day, I'm learning that I'm worthy of acceptance, not of others, but of myself.
That's the hard part. That self.
And I am learning that every day. And listen, I make this shit look like a busted bag of crayons, but it's fun.
I know anytime I look
Yeah.
back and go, oh, anytime you deal with regret and shame because, you know, whether you
Mm.
drink too much or said things you didn't want to say or did things you didn't want to do or whatever, but it's it's kind of one of those things of, hey, you know, you were one person a long time ago, you know,
Still the
and
same person. Still the same person.
you've just been forced to evolve into maybe a much better version, an upgraded version.
I think forced is a strong term. I think I've just evolved,
Yeah.
because I think we would, as humans, would say, if I didn't survive, I succumbed to it, right? So I'm just here. Progressively, it's like a dog. Dog changes from a puppy to a dog
Right.
and then a senior, right?
Mhm.
That
I
dog may have been
see.
hit by a car. He's got a little fucking gimp, but he's still a dog. He's some bitch isn't a parakeet today.
Yeah.
Still a dog, you
Yeah.
know? He ain't got no teeth, but that some bitch is still a dog.
So what do you
And
see
that's what I
go
gotta remember,
what do
you
you
know?
see going forward? What's I know with ending
But
suicide being the main goal, what
world domination.
world domination, what are you hoping to do both with your nonprofit? What are you hoping to do whether it be through socials, TikTok, traveling, like how you went out and met people and had, spoke
What
to
I would
them?
hope to do, what I would hope to do as a human
Hmm.
is continued to share my story, shed light on a subject that is ugly, and to the point where it's accepted amongst the masses. What I would love to do for the rest of my life as a career, and I say career because shit ain't free, um, is I would love to travel and speak to communities and schools and colleges and professors about death and suicide and mental health and the correlation of all of those things. Because it's important, it's important. So I don't have, I couldn't tell you, yes, I could. What do I see it? Before I die, I want a Tomorrow Needs You center in every state in this country, at least one in every major city in this country. And hopefully, by the time my grandchildren have children and they're passing, it becomes a social norm to express yourself emotionally as well as physically.
Just made me think of something. It
Was it
I don't think
waffles?
it I don't know. I don't think it's controversial. Some people could think, but just because I have a young daughter, your
Mhm.
daughter was young. What
Mhm.
at what age is the proper age to maybe start talking to younger kids, adolescents about mental health, reaching out and whatnot? Because I know a lot of young
I
kids
think that mental
nowadays.
health um, I think that mental health starts with recognizing and normalizing feelings, right? Understanding what a feeling and an emotion are. What is that feeling? What emotion did it bring up? And then being able to confidently express and explain those to a child at age appropriate, using age appropriate words, gives them an opportunity to become more in touch with themselves, right? So it's all in the methodology that you use. It's all in the modality you choose, right? Because you got 4-year-old kids that can play drums better than 50-year-old men,
Yep.
right? You got 11-year-old fucking surgeons that are in here saving shit at 11. So if you embrace the intellectual level of the child or the little human that is in your home and you don't treat them like a little puppy and coddle them out of your own emotional inadequacies and unresolved childhood shit, then you can speak to your children as young humans because that's all they are. They're
Yep.
baby ass humans. And if you died, unfortunately, tomorrow, someone else would have to be that person in your child's life to teach them how to be a human, right? They'd never forget where they came from, right? But they would have to learn basic functionality from another person, right? So that's really just what it is, man, is being able to chase it every day. Speak to your children, don't hide your emotions from them. Mean what you say and say what you mean. Think before you speak. Your words have weight, they have meaning and measure. They have measure. They do.
I think also letting them know that it's okay to seek help, to speak out,
Oh yeah,
to,
totally.
you know, I have to tell
But
my
I
daughter
think the
all the
biggest
time, hey, this is the time while we're at home, like you need daddy's help. This is where don't wait till daddy's not here or not around to help you, whether it's math homework or whatever, but speaking up, speaking out, whether it's parents, friends, but we're talking about, if you're a parent and you have kids,
yeah.
you want them to be comfortable speaking up, speaking out to you.
Well, and I think that telling a child that is one thing. Showing a child that is another. Showing and telling that child is a completely different thing, right? Because we have the do as I say, not as I do, right? Lead by example. What the fuck? What do we, So we just have to be able to be comfortable in ourselves, right? And understand our position in this world as a human, right? Things happen to us or because of us. Keeps going back to that. The root of is happened to us or because of us. We can get through all of it, but it only comes from two spots, man.
All right. Well, we're going to start wrapping this up, and
Wrap it up.
I want you to tell everybody where they can find you. But before that, yeah, go ahead and tell everybody can find you, and then we'll wrap it up.
You can find me on the internet until I'm blocked or banned. You can find me on the internet. Tomorrow Needs You. That's T-U. That's 2morrowneedsyou. Instagram. That's also on TikTok, but more prevalent and prominent as gray hair wear. Just
Mm-hmm.
the color gray, Gray, hair, Hair, wear, WHERE on TikTok.
Like, where's my car, dude?
Where's my car, dude? You can find me there. You can reach out to me on any one of those messaging platforms. I will reach back out to you if you are in need of immediate and urgent care. Please call 988 because that is what they're there for. I do respond and reply to messages almost daily, if not weekly. Yeah, and I'll give you my number and we can talk or whatever. But let's see.
YouTube.
You can find me on the beach. You can find me in the mall. You can find me, I don't know, man, everywhere.
Where would the movie live?
If the movie was living somewhere other than my phone right now in a text message from a link, it would probably live, I'm going to have to say, on my YouTube channel, which also is Tomorrow Need You with a two.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
I think I'm going to have to upload it. I think that was enough subtle hints through this
Well,
podcast
well,
for
I
me to
think I
upload it.
saw some other comments maybe in some of your posts of somebody maybe said it was good, touching, this or that. They loved it. And
Oh, yeah.
so if I'm not the only one,
Okay,
then
so I'll post it. I'll post it. I'll can post it.
hey, I heard you in one of the lives. Somebody was like, at the time I didn't even know, but I heard somebody say, "Hey, when's the movie coming out?" And you said something, whatever, whatever. And I was like, "Oh, I don't know what they're talking about. Maybe they're releasing something, this, that, the other." And then when you sent it to me and you were like, "It's February 20th, 2024," I was like, "Oh shit, that was like super recent."
That was like 4 days ago, baby.
Yeah, yeah. So I was like, "Oh, cool." And so I thought maybe I didn't know if it was unreleased just because it needed some editing, this or that, the other, or just a reluctance. But you
It's
know,
just reluctance. And I'll tell you exactly why I am terrified that if I put that movie on the internet, that I will be absolutely blown away by the number of people that both resonate with it and also need to see it.
why are you scared of success? Isn't that
Because
the
I don't come
idea?
because I don't come from it.
It's
Come
not
from humble
normal.
beginnings.
It
All I'm
feel it
supposed to
feels
do is
uncomfortable.
Man, all I'm supposed to do is live and die. You give me a credit card, everybody's going to have bad
Yeah.
credit. Everyone. So yeah, I may put it out,
I
I
think
think
it's
I think
one of those
is it worth
things where you're afraid of, when, like you said, you don't come from
I'm
that.
afraid for them to shine a flashlight on me and go, there he is right there. That's the dude. but have it be for good reasons. Hmm.
I know, I know. I'm. It's the same with a podcast. Whatever you're like,
All right, I'll
that's
put
the
it out.
goal. This is the goal,
All right, I'll put it out.
and the message is the goal.
All
Even though
right.
sometimes we're afraid, like, oh, what if it actually does? But um, that's why you did it.
All
Your
right.
why is strong. Um, well, first of all, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming on, sharing the story, sharing who you are.
Always. Always.
And
Always.
I just um I'm glad you asked in that live, hey, let me be on your podcast. Um, thank you for that. And I don't know. I just, like I said, having you as a guest, and a lot of people don't know this, but him and I discussed it before, was the podcast before was me talking solo about different things, maybe things that have happened to me, maybe somebody can get something out of it or not. But having guests on with compelling and meaningful stories, being open and vulnerable and authentic, um it's takes a little pressure off me, but also makes it about your story, and I'm just the conduit, hopefully trying to get information and somebody's story from
Give me
the
a minute.
person.
You got to give me a minute.
Go for it.
I gotta go to.
But essentially getting the information from the people with the stories, I think, to the people who need them, because typically the people I interview, they they're people who want to help. And like I say, most podcasts, so many people are reluctant to ask for help, but there are people like you and other people out there who dedicate their entire lives to helping people and wanting to make the world a better place because of their own personal experiences or tragedies that they've suffered. And that's kind of my mission here, is to bring authenticity and realness, and also to help these stories live on, just like your truck. um, there's a human attached to each of these, and sometimes there's more humans. And even just by having you on here, the people you visited can go back and listen to this and remember the time that you spent
Yep.
with them. And it also helps to for their loved ones to kind of live on in a way, and never be forgotten. And that's kind of the important thing. And so I appreciate that. um I thank you, and I look forward to continuing to develop a friendship with you.
Oh
um
yeah.
i
We're
felt
gonna
that
change the world, dude. We're
I
gonna change
felt
the
that
world.
we get along and hit it off pretty well. And you know next time I'm in a live, you're in a live, um maybe we can box up, chat and stuff. And I kind of wanted to record this on a TikTok live, but given the subject matter, we didn't want to get bananaed,
Whatever.
because TikTok does that, even though
Whatever.
in a way I think, you know if they wouldn't do stuff like that, it could be so much more real. But at the same time, TikTok has connected us, has
We'll just
given
put this in
you
reels.
give you a little platform. And and I say that because I think people always have this idea of what TikTok is, and that it's for dancing and this, that, the other, and it's this scroll thing. But the reason I bring it up, and I've brought it up several podcasts, is because I used to consider it the TikTok time suck. But then I started meeting real people, and hearing their stories. And to me, it's just been, I need to highlight the authenticity and vulnerability and stories of some of the people I meet through the platform, to let others know that, hey, they are real people. I'm not trying to promote or sell TikTok. I don't work for them. So I don't have any
I
stock options.
I wouldn't worry about that, man.
But I just think that the other thing is like I said earlier, is that it'll give anyone who wants to touch base with you or I or any other guest or any of the guests I've mentioned or any of the other podcasters, it gives you an opportunity to go in and live interact, to look at their link trees, to find out all the resources they have. Um, it's also the way that you're going to get in touch with people if you need help, if you need just to talk, if you need a
Yeah,
different perspective. And, you know, none of the podcasts we're not psychologists, psychiatrists, therapists, or anything like that. We're we're not trying to give medical advice. We're people who have suffered traumas and tragedies, and we're explaining them in a way that makes sense to us, hoping that it resonates with other people, or they, maybe somebody can relate in the way we say it. And we cannot fix your problems, but we can listen. We can be maybe a different perspective. And sometimes a different perspective is all you need. Or maybe you just need a safe space to be and a safe person to listen to who's not going to judge you, somebody who's not so close to you, maybe, because sometimes that judgment comes from those who are closest to us.
yep.
So, you know, like I would say, if you want to be more involved, if you want to be part of the community more, go check out TikTok, go check out some of the pages, some of the links, um, because at the Podcast Connection Network, we're all about connectivity and community, helping each other, holding space for one another, and simply just trying to love people where they are, as opposed to fixing them, because you know you're the only one who can fix yourself and what's inside of you and your problems. But you know as I would say, is go out there and be the person that you would want to meet. um and
You know
that
what I
should
tell them?
what's that?
Just do it because no one else is going to.
All right, i'm
No one
gonna
else is
get
gonna.
I'm gonna give you get to leave the audience with the last words before I stop the recording. What is it you want to say to everyone listening and or watching?
Don't be afraid to chase your dreams. Don't let your traumas and your trials and tribulations define you. Only allow them to describe you to the people that you feel worthy enough to carry along beside you on your journey through this life. And always remember, always remember, tomorrow needs you.
All right, that's going to conclude that, and I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.